This video shows you how to handle a split dispatch in Transport Pro. Many asset companies need to handle scenarios where one driver picks up a load and drops it at the yard, and then another driver picks it up and delivers it. When you're doing a split in Transport Pro, that means you will have two dispatches or two dispatch records assigned to the load. There are a couple of different ways you can set up a split dispatch depending on how you want to show the movement for that load to the customer. This video will show you both examples. Let's first look at an example where we have a load that has a shipper, stop-off, and consignee. I've already built the load, and now it's time to dispatch it. Note, you can dispatch directly from the freight operations dashboard, but for this example, I'm working from the load summary screen. You can work from either screen. I'm going to add a dispatch here. This dispatch needs to represent driver A, who is taking the load from the shipper to the stop-off, or in other words, completing the first leg of the load. First, I'm going to assign my driver, just as I would on any other dispatch. Again, the driver's assigned tractor, trailer, default rate of pay, auto-populate on the dispatch for me. Now, I need to look at the stops on the dispatch. If the driver was doing the whole load, then I would leave it. But in this case, he's going to drop the trailer at the stop-off. So to show this, I'm going to uncheck the consignee box. This dispatch record now shows the actual stops that driver A is completing, and you'll notice that the mileage on the dispatch also updates based on the locations or stops that are checked. You will also find a drop this trailer box on the dispatch record. If driver A is dropping the trailer at the stop-off, you can check this box. Checking this box on the dispatch will feed our equipment location report, which I'll show a little later in this video. The other thing you will need to consider when doing splits is the dispatch pay. Typically, users will flat rate the pay to each driver on each dispatch. So we can say, for example, Joe gets $500 for leg A of the trip, and John gets $500 for leg B of the trip. This keeps it simple and ensures that the appropriate amounts get passed through to each driver for their leg of the load. Note, if you happen to be dispatching a driver that is paid per mile, then you can leave it if you want to, as the system will auto-calculate the line haul pay based on miles. You can see that here in this first example. However, if you're dispatching a driver that is paid a percentage of line haul, then you'll want to flat rate the dispatch pay, so you don't end up overpaying on a split load. I'll show how to flat rate in the next step when adding the second dispatch for the second leg of this load. Once everything looks correct for the first dispatch, click Save. You'll notice that once I dispatch the first leg and end up back on the load summary screen, I get a notification telling me that not all stops have been accounted for. This is simply the system telling me that we haven't completed the load yet, or in other words, not all of the location boxes or stops have been accounted for on the dispatch record. We know that because we're doing a split and we haven't added the second leg yet. So now, let's say the first leg here is delivered. And now I'm ready to dispatch the second leg. To add the second dispatch, I'm going to go through the same process. I'm going to click Add Dispatch and assign driver B to the load. Note, you can change the equipment being dispatched if needed by clicking the lock icon to clear the field and then assign what you need. You will see that the system recognizes the stops on the dispatch that need to be accounted for and auto checks the appropriate boxes, but it's always good to double check for accuracy. Now, in this example, I have assigned one of my owner-operators who is paid a percentage of line haul. So again, because this is a split, I'm going to flat rate this dispatch. So I'll select flat rate from the dispatch pay dropdown and then enter the line haul amount to the owner-operator. You will also notice that a field becomes available where you can enter the fuel surcharge amount to the owner-operator. As you probably know, we can set up fuel surcharge to automatically pass through to owner-operators, and perhaps your installation is set up this way. However, if you are flat rating a dispatch, the system will not pick up that setting. So think of it this way. It holds that rule unless you're flat rating. So if you do need to pass through the fuel surcharge amount to the owner-operator, in this example we will do that, then you'll enter it here as a flat rate. Again, you just want to be aware of this when you're flat rating dispatches. Otherwise, you don't need to do anything. Once everything looks correct on the second dispatch, click Save. So now, leg 2 of the load is dispatched. And once it's delivered, I'll want to be sure to update the dispatch status to delivered. So this example I just showed you used an official stop-off on the load, meaning I added the stop to the load itself. And that means that the customer can see that stop-off on the invoice. Now let's take a look at the second example. Let's say that driver A is dropping at the yard, and you really don't want your customer to see that. Only dispatch and the driver needs to see that movement internally. It doesn't really matter to the customer. You can create what we call a hidden stop. You'll create the split essentially the same way I just showed, but instead of it being an official stop on the load, it's a hidden stop. It just depends on your needs. So let's walk through this second example. I've already created a load here. Now I'm going to add my dispatch as I normally would and assign driver A. I'm going to make sure that all of the information and the dispatch pay looks correct. But now I need to update the stops on the dispatch to show what driver A is actually doing. This is where I create the drop at the yard as a hidden stop. You'll click the Edit Origin and Destination link here on the dispatch. When you do this, the origin and destination become available for edit. I'm going to click the lock icon to edit the destination on this dispatch to reflect the yard. You can choose from one of your existing locations or simply type it out here. Once you do this, you will see that a stop for the yard has been added to the dispatch record and is now labeled as DD. This stands for dispatch destination. And then, just as shown before, I'm going to uncheck the consignee location box to show that driver A here is going from the shipper to the yard. And if he's going to drop the trailer, then I can click the drop this trailer box to record that. Then, when we go to add the second dispatch for the second leg of the load, you will see that the system recognizes the stops that need to be accounted for and has auto-checked the appropriate location boxes. In this example, on the second leg, you'll see the yard location labeled as DO, which stands for dispatch origin. Again, you'll double check all of the driver, equipment, and dispatch pay for accuracy, and then save the record. So the way I just showed you here will show the customer on the invoice that the load went from the shipper to the consignee. But behind the scenes, we know it really went from the shipper to the yard and from the yard to the consignee, and we show that on the dispatching side of life. Again, make sure that the dispatch status for each leg is updated to delivered when the load is completed. The last thing I want to review is the equipment location report. Let's go to Reports, Operational Reports, Equipment Location Report. As mentioned earlier, if you are checking the drop this trailer box on the dispatch, then that will feed this report. Please note that this report is only based on dispatch information. We are not pulling in data from any external sources here. So you can come here and run a search for dropped trailers by filtering the report type to trailers and then checking the box to filter by dropped trailers. Now, if you're looking for a trailer location report in real time, then you need to have an integration with one of our supported trailer tracking partners. If you have this activated, you can run a trailer location report, which is based off the trailer location pings we receive from the supported third-party provider. This report can be found under Reports, Operational Reports, Trailer Location Tracking. And this completes how to handle split dispatching in Transport Pro, as well as highlights a couple of reporting options you have which may be helpful. If you have any questions or need support, please contact us at support@transportpro.net. Thank you for watching this video.